Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our first Parenting and Families SIG webinar. On behalf of the Parenting and Families SIG, I really wanted to just extend our huge thanks to Dr. Cheryl McNeil for being with us today for to be a wonderful presentation on how to improve your child's behavior in 5 minutes a day. Before I turn it over to Dr. McNeil, I just want to give brief background. Dr. Cheryl McNeil is a professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Florida and a professor emeritus at West Virginia University. She received her PhD in clinical psychology at the University of Florida in Gainesville and completed a predoctoral internship at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. Dr. McNeil, internationally recognized expert in managing child disruptive behaviors, particularly through parent-child interaction therapy and teacher-child interaction therapy. She has over 150 publications and has been an author or co-author on numerous books and chapters. Please join me in thanking and welcoming Dr. Cheryl McNeil.
Hello, everybody. It's really exciting for me to be here today and talk to you about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that is how can we improve a child's behavior in a really fast amount of time, 5 minutes a day, using really positive techniques. So where we're going to start is what are we going to do with 5 minutes a day if we really want to make a difference in how our children are behaving in such a short period of time. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull from play therapy. So play therapy is an established way of interacting with children that's been in the counseling, mental health field for decades and decades. And what we know about play therapy is that if you bring a child to a counselor and you want that counselor to work with your child, to get your child to open up or to deal with some issues or to work on their emotions or their behavior, what the counselor is going to do with young children is something called play therapy, where they're going to sit on the floor or at a table, they're going to put out some toys, and they're going to do a type of counseling that's very powerful. And I've done this type of counseling myself, and it's so powerful that you can have a child who has had some really adverse things happen, perhaps some trauma or some challenges. And within just a few minutes of meeting that child, you can form a relationship with that child and get them to feel really comfortable with you. In the program that we're talking about today, what we're going to do is, rather than you taking your child to a counselor, which is a good thing to do, and this is another good thing to do, what we want to do is to show you things that you can do where you can become a play therapist for your child in a 5-minute therapy session every day, and that you can see some of those amazing benefits that we see in mental health counseling by using similar skills with your child. So if you do this play therapy for 5 minutes a day, what you're going to find is that you're going to become a therapeutic and specialized parent who has has evidence-based parenting skills that are at the highest level in terms of what a parent can do for a child, because you're going to practice. You're going to be practicing these skills for 5 minutes every day, and you're going to get really, really good at what we know is like the best that you can do in terms of how you interact with the children. You're also going to learn how to manage your child's behavior with positive approaches alone. So without having to yell or threaten punishment or punish, these are some positive ways to get children to be motivated to give you wonderful behavior. And you're going to learn how to listen very actively to your child so that your child wants to tell you what they're thinking, what they're feeling, issues that they're having. They want to tell you about school. They want to tell you about what's going on with other children. And they just want to be talking to you because you're such a great listener, like a therapist would be. And then what's going to happen with your child, if you do this for 5 minutes a day, is that your child is going to start to feel better about themselves and think of themselves as, like, I'm a great kid. Like I'm very well behaved and I have a lot of strengths. They're going to see their own strengths. And when a child feels confident and happy about themselves, the behavior tends to follow that. So you can tend to see some positive behavior there too. We're going to be working on your child's social skills, encouraging them to say things like please and thank you, and to share their toys with you during this 5 minutes a day. We're going to work on getting them to be less angry, less frustrated, and try to bring out more happiness and calmness and satisfaction. And we're going to work on their attention span to get them to sit still longer, to stay with the toy task, and to kind of have a calming effect on them. And so we're also going to be working on your relationship with your child, where we're trying to get that relationship to be really a therapeutic, extremely positive interaction where you become super warm and it's really fun and enjoyable. So in terms of where we're going to go with this, you're going to do this play therapy for 5 minutes a day. And in that 5 minutes, you're going to get the therapeutic benefits that a therapist would get when they're using these counseling techniques. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is just to take a leap of faith with me right now. It sounds like a lot to accomplish in just 5 minutes a day, but I want you to take a leap of faith, keep an open mind, hear what this involves, and think about when you get home from a busy day, like right now, and you come in the door and you've got homework and you've got dinner and you've got craziness going on, taking care of the children and trying to get the bills done and all of that. It's really hard to think about how can I connect with my children at the same time when I have so many things I have to do. So what we're going to be saying is that if you do this for 5 minutes a day, you'll have this intense interaction where every second is going to be meaningful, and you're going to get those needs met for connecting at the end of a busy day. And your child needs to connect too. So if you're going to spend some time with them, let's make it the best quality time we can possibly make it. So let's talk a little bit more about this daily practice thing. So what we want is to try to devote 5 minutes every day, which again, it doesn't sound like much, but if you do this for 5 minutes every single day, then every day a connection is going to happen where you're going to tell your child how special they are, and you're going to be there for them, fully engaged, fully listening, without playing on your phone or trying to clean the kitchen at the same time, giving them 5 minutes of your time every day. And that's where the benefits will start to happen. It is short enough that you can actually do this every day if you put it into a routine and you make it just sort of part of your evening, that when your pajamas are on and your teeth are brushed, then we're going to have our special playtime together. And for your child, that will be the best time of the day. They'll really look forward to it. It's kind of tempting to want to take the special time away because they're going to enjoy it so much. But we want to think of special time as a definite part of your day, like toothbrushing. And we don't want to think of it like a privilege. It's something to be taken away if they're misbehaving. If your child's having a rough day and they're really kind of throwing it at you with aggression and tantrums and hyperactivity, they actually need more of this special playtime, not less. You might want to think about doing it twice on a day where they're having a rough day, because they need you. They need somebody to hear them and somebody to help them calm down and feel good about themselves. So what's the basics? What makes this play therapy? Okay. The basic concept of this is that it's different from regular play. Because some of you might be thinking, hey, Dr. McNeil, I already play with my child all the time. I play with my child too much. Like my child will never let me get anything done because they always want to play with me. This type of play is therapy. All right. So it's very different than any other kind of play you might do throughout the day. I encourage you to keep doing the other types of play, but this one is a therapy session. So the basic of play therapy is that the child is in the lead and you're going to follow their lead and really let them lead the play interaction. And that's going to be different than other types of play where you have all these suggestions and how about we make a helicopter? Hey, get the propeller up there. This play is going to be different where your child's going to lead it and you're going to follow like a patient counselor, a patient therapist, following them and being there in the moment with them. And this is going to be one of the few times a day when a young child gets to take the lead, because the rest of the day, everybody's telling them what to do. Get your shoes on, let's go, get that book up, pick that up, time to eat, get up here. And so this is 5 minutes a day where they get a break from everybody kind of always telling them what to do, and they get to be in the lead. And that makes it different. It needs to be different for it to be therapeutic. So let's start with what we call the don't skills. So if you only have 5 tiny little minutes after a long, chaotic, exhausting day to connect with your child, what are we going to do with that time and what are we not going to do with that time? So I'm going to start with the don't skills, and you're going to see that this is pretty tough to be a therapist for your child every day. The first thing we do not want to do if we're in a therapy session with a child and we're trying to work on our relationship and improve their behavior is we do not want to give commands or instructions. So there's 2 types of commands. There's a direct command where you tell them what to do, like sit down or hand me the car or give me some crayons. And then there's indirect commands where you make a suggestion, like, would you like to sit down by me? Or let's put the cars away, okay? Or how about you color the grass green? Every one of those is taking the lead instead of following the child's lead. So we want to avoid giving any instructions or commands about the play and let them choose what to play, how to play, and let them come up with all the creative ideas. And you're going to patiently be in the moment with them, like a therapist would be. So we're going to avoid all commands. So for 5 minutes a day, we would like for your child to have 0 instructions. For 5 minutes a day, it's their break from being told what to do. So let's just take a look at what it looks like. This is Dr. Corey Litterman, a very renowned psychologist at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And she did these videos to help us understand the skills with her son, Benny. So here's Dr. Litterman and her son, Benny, showing us what it looks like when a parent plays with a lot of commands. And we're trying to get all these commands down to 0.
Benny, I want us to build a house. Okay. Hand me one of these smooth ones. Okay, now hand me, or put some more on top here, like this. Okay. Yep, do it like that. Okay. Get another one. Put it on here.
All right, how's our sound? Is our sound good? Are
Benny,
you able to
put
hear
on the
this?
house over here.
No.
Put that one
I
over
want to
here.
build my own house.
Well, we're playing together. You need to put them on here.
Well, we can put our houses together later.
Get me some more of these pieces out of that box. Benny, you need to leave these for everyone to play with. You need to play nicely with the toys. Benny, I want to.
So what you can see in this video is that when you're playing with a child who has some listening issues, and you make all these suggestions about where to put the roof, or let's do it this way, or how about you do it that way, or you need to be nice, you need to act right. What happens is that it frustrates your child, and the child gets frustrated, and then you're getting angry and they're getting angry, and that defeats the purpose. If you're going to take 5 precious minutes out of your day, you want to make sure that it has a really powerful, positive benefit. And so we're going to avoid any instructions or commands and let your child lead the play. All right, that's our first don't. Our second don't, in order for this 5 minutes a day to really get your child behaving well, is we want to avoid asking questions. Now, this is going to be very difficult because we've actually studied parents and young children in our research lab by coding what they say. And we find that parents talk a lot of the time in questions. So here's a typical parent playing with a typical young child. Oh, is that Mr. Potato Head? Are you taking his hat off? What color is that hat? Oh, you wanted me to hold the hat, or do you want to put the hat back on Mr. Potato Head? Oh, did you put that hat on Mr. Potato Head? Oh, what's he gonna do? Is he going to the park? So we tend to talk about 80% of the time to young children in questions. Now, when you think about that, how many of those questions would a child answer? What we find is not very many. And the reason that they don't answer very many is because there was not enough time for them to even have an answer. And it becomes very pushy, very leading, because you're leading the conversation with all those questions. And what happens is that the child actually doesn't have an opportunity to tell you about a bird's nest that they saw on the walk home from school, because you're asking so many questions about Mr. Potato Head's hat. In a play therapy session, we want the child to lead the conversation the same way we want the child to lead the play activity. So we avoid commands because we want them to choose how to play, the way to play. And then we avoid questions because we want them to open up to us about what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And we have better strategies than questions to get children to talk to us and to feel heard. And we'll explain those strategies in just a little bit. So there's different kind of questions. There's the who, what, when, why, where kind of questions. We want to avoid those to 0 for 5 minutes a day. There's unintentional questions where your voice kind of trails up at the end. So it's like, oh, you're drawing a car and you sound like you're unsure, or I'm going to draw one too, okay? And you kind of checking things out with them. We're going to avoid all questions. And then we're going to avoid questions because sometimes there are hidden instructions or commands in there, like, would you like to clean up? It sounds like a question, but you're really trying to direct the play. Or would you like to draw a man on your house? And now you're making a suggestion. So we want the child to come up with all the suggestions and for your child to talk about what your child wants to talk about. So we're going to avoid all questions because we want them to lead the conversation. And we want them to really feel like you're listening, you're really paying attention. So here's a parent who's asking a lot of questions. And think to yourself, how many of these questions would Benny actually answer?
Ooh, what you building? Benny, what are you making? Here, you want some more blocks? Benny, what are you making? Oh, you're putting some on the top. Do you want some help? What's wrong? Ooh.
So when you watch this video, you can see who's in the lead. The parent is in the lead because the parent is directing the conversation where the parent wants it to go. So we're going to avoid questions. The third thing that we're going to avoid is we're going to avoid any kind of criticism, like blatant criticism, like that's ugly, that's mean, you're being bad. Those are obvious criticisms, but we're also going to avoid the subtle ones. And the subtle ones would be these 5 words. So for 5 minutes a day, we're going to give your child a break from these 5 words. And those are the words no, don't, stop, quit, and not. So for 5 minutes a day, the rest of the day, they actually hear those words a lot. Don't do that. No, that's going to hurt the baby. No. The dog doesn't like it when you do that. So for 5 minutes a day, we want to have a break from any kind of negative talk at all, because we're trying to work on promoting your child's self-esteem. And we're trying to work on having this intensely positive connection each day, so that never a day goes by when your child doesn't hear that they're special and that they have strengths. So we want to avoid any kind of negative words like no, don't, stop, quit, and not. And we'll tell you what to do instead of some of that negative talk in just a minute. So if with young children, they believe what you say. And so if you say to them that you're stupid, that was ugly, that was mean, they believe what you say the same way that they believe in leprechauns on St. Patrick's Day. So if they hear in the course of a day, if they hear more negative things about how bad they are than positive things, they will have a negative self-esteem because they believe what you tell them. And if they hear more positive things than negative things, they're going to have a high self-esteem. The rest of the day, you're busy. Oh my goodness, you're busy, you're tired, you're juggling a lot of balls. Negative things are going to come out when you're trying to manage the behavior of one or more children. And that's okay. But in this 5 minutes a day, what we want to do is we want to put a lot of positive stuff in the bank so we can get that self-esteem going in the right direction. Another issue is that criticism can actually backfire on you, and it can actually increase problematic behavior. So that when a child hears no, sometimes that's a challenge to do it more. But you also can see it in the form of negative attention seeking. So I was telling some friends this story yesterday. I'm gonna repeat it for you all because I think it really shows what we're talking about with negative attention seeking. That I was at a Walmart, and in the Walmart there was this mannequin. The mannequin had a skirt, and there was a little guy, he's about 4 years old, and he runs over to the mannequin, he pulls up the dress, and he says, "Panties, I see the panties." And the mom was like so embarrassed. She's like humiliated. And she says to her little guy, "Stop that. Don't you touch that. Don't you touch those panties. Don't you touch that dress like that." And the child looks up at the mom with like glee, like this excitement in his face. And he runs and he pulls up the dress again. And the parent's like, "Stop that. Don't you do that again. You're embarrassing me." And the child does it again and laughs. And the parent actually said to him that if you pull up that dress one more time, I'm going to spank your bottom. And the child immediately pulls up the dress again. And this mom runs over and she takes that child by the wrist and she holds the wrist and she starts spanking him through the jeans in a circle. And she goes around like this, like a circle, and spanks him. And she's spanking him in a circle. And I just couldn't stop watching. It was kind of like, you know, when you see a car crash or something, you just can't turn away. And she spanks him and he's laughing hilariously as they're going in this circle with the spanking. And as soon as she lets go of the wrist, he runs. You know what's going to happen, right? He runs to the mannequin and immediately pulls up the dress and says, "Panties." And what you need to think about when you're using criticism, like, "Don't do that. That's embarrassing. Stop that." What you want to think about is the behavior going up or is it going down whenever I use criticism? And if it's going up, that means you're reinforcing it, because the definition of positive reinforcement is when you do something and the behavior gets worse. And some children really enjoy the thrill of getting a parent to freak out, getting the veins to pop out on the neck and getting them to flail around. And if you've got one of these stimulation seeking children, that they often will enjoy negative attention as much or more than positive attention. And they certainly like negative attention better than no attention at all. So when I say criticism can backfire on you, sometimes it actually gets the children to do the behavior more instead of less if they are negative attention seekers. So I'm going to tell you what to do in your 5 minutes instead. But here's a parent using some negative talk.
Come on. No, don't put that one. There won't be room for a door. Benny, quit adding those long ones. We got to make room for a door. Don't put the roof on yet, Benny. Quit being silly. Benny, you need to listen. No.
I want to put my roof on. It's my house.
Benny, quit pulling things out of my hand.
So you can hear the words no, don't, stop, quit, and not. And every time a negative word happens, there's strain in the relationship. There's frustration building in the child. There's the self-esteem in the child is going down. And so it has a lot of negative side effects to use criticism. And it's not very effective for changing behavior if a child is negative attention seeking at all. If you've got a child that's stimulation seeking, needs a lot of stimulation, then you have to be careful about negative attention seeking. So I've given you 3 things that you cannot do for 5 minutes a day if you're being a play therapist with a child. So what I'd like you to do is just use your chat button for me. Come on, we're going to have a chat time. Go ahead and type for me. Type in the chat one of those 3 things you're not supposed to do. I want to see if you remember any of the 3 things. For 5 minutes a day, your child should have a break from these 3 things. Throw it into the chat. Go ahead, throw it in there and see if you can remember any of those. I appreciate those of you who are chatting away. Thanks for putting those things in the chat so we all can remember what those 3 don't skills are. Thanks, everybody. So if we're going to take away the 3 don't skills, don't ask questions, don't give any commands, and don't use any negative words, what on earth are we going to spend our 5 minutes doing? You're probably thinking, well, Cheryl, this is going to be like the longest 5 minutes of my life. What do you want me to do? Just sit here and stare at my child? Because you took away things that we do all the time as parents, that we give commands, we ask questions, and we tell children, no, don't do that. So here's what we're going to fill up that 5 minutes with. They're called the do skills. We have 5 of them. Here's what you're going to do if you're a play therapist. You're going to use what's called the pride skills. P is for praise. R is for reflect. I is for imitate. D is for describe, and E is for enjoy. Those are our pride skills. I'm going to start with the single most important skill. If you don't hear another thing that I say in this Zoom meeting tonight, I want you to remember this. The most important skill is the use of labeled praise. That's the most important thing you can do with your child. If you want to promote positive behavior very, very quickly in 5 minutes a day, you want to use labeled praise, and you want to use it a lot. So a labeled praise is different than an unlabeled praise. An unlabeled praise is where you throw out a nice word like you say, that's terrific, fantastic, I love that, wonderful. Those are unlabeled praises. And they feel good, like it feels good to be told wonderful, but they actually don't modify behavior well at all. If you want to change your child's behavior, you have to be specific with that praise and tell your child exactly what you like about what they are doing. And when you tell your child exactly what you like, that behavior will increase. So labeled praise is one of the most powerful skills we have in behavior modification for getting children to do good things more often. So we want to praise, we want to give compliments, we want to tell the child exactly what they're doing with their behavior that we notice that's going well. And that's catching your child being good, right? So instead of always waiting for them to misbehave and then giving a negative talk or a criticism, we're going to train our eyes on what's going right, tell the child what's going well, and then when you do that, the behavior will increase. We have actually proven this scientifically. For example, we did a research study in our research lab where we had 2 of those marble runs where you put the marble down the run. And we had one of them was red and one of them was yellow. And the parent would have the child put the marbles down the run and they'd say, good job. I like that. That's wonderful. Like that. And then we said to the parent, this time I want you to give a labeled praise for using the red marble run. Good job putting the marble down the red one. Ooh, I love it when you play with the red marble run. Ooh, you just put the marble down on my very favorite red. I love it when you use red. And guess what happens? The child goes more and more for the red marble run because they want to please their parents. They want to do the right things. And when they know what you like, they will do it more. So we're not trying to improve marble run behavior. What we're trying to do is we're trying to improve sharing, using nice words, using your manners, asking politely, and all those great social skills. So we're going to use a strategy called praise the opposite, where we're actually going to use labeled praise to deal with problematic behaviors. So if you have a child who hits the sibling, you can use label praise to handle that hitting. And you say, oh, Cheryl, Dr. McNeil, are you telling me I should praise my child for hitting? I absolutely am not saying that. What I'm telling you is you should think about what is the opposite of hitting. And you should give your child labeled praises for the opposite of hitting. Oh, I like it when you touch your sister so gently. Good job being so calm with the dog. You can't be gentle and hitting at the same time, calm and hitting at the same time. So we want to praise opposite behaviors. Every time you praise your daughter, I love the way you're being such a good big sister for your brother and using your gentle hands. Every time you do that, gentle hands will increase and then aggression will naturally decrease. So we want to give labeled praises for the opposite. So here's an example. If you've got a problem behavior like running inside the house, go ahead and put it in the chat. Help me out here, folks. Go ahead. Come on, put it in the chat. What is the opposite of running inside the house? What would be an opposite of that? So let's say that your child just woke up, right? And they've got like their hair is all smashed down and they got pillow marks on their face and they're sleepy and their eyes are almost stuck together and they wander out into the living room. Have they run yet? So before they actually run, you could give a label praise for the opposite. Thank you for putting the opposite in there. And you can say, I love the way you're using your walking feet. Or thanks for walking so carefully in the house. And then you're going to increase the walking behavior and you're going to decrease the running. By noticing before the problem behavior happens, watch, scan, look for the good stuff you like and give specific label praise for the good stuff, and the good stuff is going to increase. Screaming, the opposite of screaming is going to be what? And the hard part about this exercise is that you have to make sure you say it totally positively without a word, no, don't stop, quit, or not in it. So you have to say it like totally positive. So think about what is the opposite of screaming. We wouldn't want to say, oh, I'm so glad you're not screaming right now, or that's so wonderful that you're not biting your sister. So those are not very effective. We want to use labeled praises that are the complete positive opposite of the problem behavior. So we want to say, and thanks for those who are putting things in the chat. We just want to say, great job of using your inside voice. Thank you for talking so quietly while your brother is sleeping. So we want to use those great label praises and those behaviors will increase because the child feels noticed and appreciated and they'll want to do it more. So let's watch Corey and her son, Benny, doing some label praises.
Ooh, I like the way you're connecting those guys. Oh, nice job working hard at that.
Thank you.
Oh, that was nice to say thank you. Ooh, that was a good idea to make him drive it.
It's not over here in 30 minutes.
Oh, you made him say it was 30 minutes. You have some good ideas about what to do with these guys.
So not only is she praising him, she's praising him really, really specifically. And one of my favorite praises that she used was something like, I like it that you said thank you. So if you hear your child use the word please, then and you say, oh, I love it when you use my favorite word please, they will use the word please more often. And if you hear them say thank you and you say, oh, that makes me so happy when I hear you say thank you, they will say thank you more often. So you want to use those label praises. When I say label praises in a 5-minute time, I'm not talking about a little bit of label praise. What I'm talking about is for you to give one labeled specific praise every 30 seconds, 10 in 5 minutes, 10 of them in a 5-minute period. That's a lot of label praise. But I want you to think a little bit, how many times that day did your child hear things like, stop it, no, that was mean, I don't like that. We're doing the self-esteem balance here, and they need to hear more positive things than negative things every day in order to have a positive self-esteem. So you've had a crazy day, lots of stuff going on, you need to get them out the door, lots of stress. For 5 minutes, we'd like to see you notice everything that you like about what they're doing and tell them about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Tell them what a good job they're doing. So it would sound something like this. I love the way that you're keeping the car on the table. You're such a good, calm driver. And that was so nice of you to share a car with me. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, and I like the way that you pulled your chair right up to that table. You're sitting up so nice and big so that we can have a nice playtime. Oh, and what a nice idea to help the little man in the car. You're such a good friend to that little guy. 1 every 30 seconds, you will be noticing what your child does well, and then you'll be praising them. Now, what you might be thinking this, in my family, and in my community, we don't talk like that, Dr. McNeil. We don't praise our kids all day, every day like that. We don't every 30 seconds tell them what a good job they're doing, sharing, and how wonderful it is that they're pulling their chair up to the table. We don't do that in our community. And I'm sure you do not, because what we're talking about in a 5-minute-a-day program is that we're talking about therapy. And for 5 minutes a day, I want you to be different than the parent you are the rest of the day. When you're having a therapy session, I want you to put on your therapy hat and talk like a therapist. And when you talk like a therapist, it's weird. It's really weird. Therapists do say once every 30 seconds what a child is doing well. And then the child's behavior will increase. They'll feel good about themselves, good about you. The relationship will be there. The connection will be there. So for 5 minutes a day, I want you to talk differently than your neighbors do, differently than those do on the playground, differently than your relatives do. Because for 5 minutes a day, you are there to be a therapist for your child. All right, so I'm going to tell you another weird thing we're going to do, okay? The next weird thing we're going to do if you're being a therapist and you're having a counseling session is you're going to use active listening. And what this involves is what's called reflection. You're going to actually reflect back, which is a type of repetition, what your child says. So when they speak, you stop what you're doing and you listen, you hear them, and you say it back to them. And that's called a reflection. When you reflect, you are going to show the child that I am here and I'm listening. I'm not playing on my phone. I'm not thinking about a million different things. I'm actually listening to you. And I want to hear what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And I'm going to show you that I'm listening because I'm going to say it back to you so you know I'm listening. Because a lot of times a child is like, oh, and I went to go see the movie, and at the movie there was Elsa, and Elsa was on top of the mountain, and you're like, and it's like, do they really, are you really listening? And do they feel really heard? So instead of what I'd like for you to do is to say back what the child says, and I want you to say it with certainty in your voice. And the certainty is the hard part. So the child says to you, oh, this is a ski-doo. And you'll say, this is a ski-doo. And they'll say, oh, he wears a helmet. And you'll be like, he does wear a helmet. He's like, this goes over the big waves. Oh yeah, it goes over the big waves. So that's reflection. When you reflect what they say, they'll talk more to you. They'll tell you more about the story. Now, the hard part is to say it with certainty in your voice instead of a question. So here's how most adults reflect children. Oh, it's gonna jump over the big waves. Is it gonna jump over the waves? Oh, he crashed. Did he crash? Oh, he's wearing a yellow helmet. Yellow? When we ask a question back to our children, it sounds like we don't believe them. Like we're skeptical, like we don't get them. Like we don't quite get what you're saying. We have this constant skepticism going on. So when your child talks to you, we want you to say it with certainty. And they say something like, oh, I'm making a giant tower. But you are making a giant tower. With certainty, I believe you. I hear you and I get you. I understood what you say. You're making a giant tower. Now, if you're questioning me whether this is going to work, okay, I want you to imagine that you come home after a horrible, horrible day and you say to a spouse, a partner, you say, my coworker did the rudest thing to me ever. And your partner says, ooh, something rude. They did something rude to you. What do you think will happen next? You'll tell them more of the story because you've got an active listener there who's saying it back. And I am so frustrated at work, I think I could just spit. Oh, and then your partner says, it sounds really, really tough, like you've had a rough day. Are you going to stop the story or are you going to tell them a little more? You're going to tell them more. When people reflect back what you say, then you want to say more, you want to talk more because you've got a great listener. So I encourage you to reflect back, let your child lead the conversation, and you're just going to hear them and be with them, and they're going to keep telling you more and more and more, and you're going to know what's going on at school without having to say, how was school today? You're going to be there in the moment, and when they tell you about school, you're going to reflect it back, and then they're going to tell you more about school and more about school, and you're going to really find out what's going on in there, and you're going to get really close because they're going to feel like my dad, my mom are great listeners. So here's Dr. Linneman doing some
Here
reflection.
I come, getting on the flight. Ooh, I want to go to the bath. That'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it will. Here I go. This is a nice, comfy seat.
That is a nice, comfy seat.
Oh, she's getting on.
Yep, she's getting on.
So what you can hear is you can hear her saying back what he says with certainty in her voice, and then he tells more of the story, and here we go. All it takes is 5 minutes a day of this, and you're going to have a child who feels like I can trust you to tell you things that I'm thinking about and what's interesting to me or what I'm worried about. You can label their emotions. Sounds like that was pretty scary. And they're going to tell you more, and you're going to be a great listener for them. The I in the pride skills is called imitate. And imitate is just what it sounds like, that when your child does something, you do it too. So if they make a circle, you make a circle. If they go, oh, you go, hey. And they will feel like they're the center of your world when you imitate what they do. And, you know, there's a saying, imitation is the highest form of flattery. And it really is, because if they say, I'm going to make a unicorn horn, and you say, I'm going to make a unicorn horn just like yours, they're going to beam with pride because you must have liked it if you're going to imitate it. So that's imitation. When you imitate, the child gets to choose what we're playing with, and you're just following their play, and you're engaging with them, doing what's interesting to them. So if you have a child, perhaps maybe you have a child who's on the autism spectrum, and your child just likes to line up the cars, and you're thinking, why don't we send them down the ramp? Why don't we have a race? Why don't we have a car show? And you're thinking of all these creative things to do. In a play therapy session for 5 minutes a day, what we're going to want you to do is line up the cars also. Because if that's what your child wants to do, you're going to enter their world, you're going to follow their lead, and we're both going to line up the cars, and they're going to look over at you, and they're going to be like, you get me, and we're having a special time together because you're doing what I'm doing. So do what your child's doing. If they're drawing a house, you draw a house. So here's imitation. This is what it looks like.
Ooh,
they're
You
putting
want a
trains
piece?
on the
I'm
track,
gonna add a
you
piece.
put trains.
Ooh.
If they're laying down track, you lay down track.
Oh, there's a dead end.
Oh, you added a dead end. I'm gonna add a dead end.
So see how he looks over at her? When she's like, you added a dead end, I'm going to add a dead end. He looks over like, oh, you're doing it too. Well, now you're a lot of fun because you're doing what I'm doing. So we're having a good time together. The D is probably the most unusual of the skills we're going to ask you to use. And that's called describing. And we see very little of this in typical parents interacting with children, but you see quite a bit of it if you're watching a therapist play with a child in a therapy session. Description is called a behavior description, where you watch your child's hands, you watch their activities, and you do a running commentary like a sportscaster of what your child is doing with their hands. So it really is like a sportscaster who would say, you know, the quarterback has the ball, he's going back, he sees somebody open, he's throwing the ball, it's a touchdown. But you're doing it with toys. So you're going to say, oh, you took a yellow one off. Now you took 2 yellow ones off. Oh, you put a yellow one on your head. Now you put the yellow one on top. You're making the tower taller. And oh, you turned it upside down. Now you took off a blue one. Now you put the blue one back on. It really is like a sportscaster. You're just a commentator, commenting on what your child is doing. So when you do these, are like you statements. You are sitting next to me. You are pushing the car. You are making the fire engine sound go. Those are behavior descriptions, describing what your child is doing in their play. Why do we want to do this weird thing, this weird running commentary of what the child is doing? When you describe what your child is doing, it increases their attention to the task. They stick with it longer so that your playtime is more fun for you because it's calmer. When you do description, it gives attention to your child. If you're just sitting there quietly watching them play, they're going to start doing this. Mom, dad, I'm building with I'm building. Because they're not sure if you're quite there with them or if you're daydreaming or if you're really in the moment. But when you do that running commentary of what they're doing, you're going to find that they calm down and they feel like, wow, you really like what I'm doing and I'm going to do it more. It's the same thing with reflection. If you ever hear your child repeating themselves, so it sounds something like this, like, hey, Dad, we made necklaces at school today. We made necklaces. Today we made necklaces at school. We made some necklaces. If you hear your child repeating, they're begging you for a reflection. And if you say to them, you made necklaces today, the repetitions will stop because that's what they wanted. They wanted to feel heard. They weren't sure if you knew this important thing that they made necklaces today. And when you say you made necklaces today, their need gets met and they don't need to whine. They don't need to scream. They don't need to be, mom, because they're being heard. So use reflection when they talk and use description when they're playing with their hands, when they're doing things. You describe what they're doing. We did a research study in our lab where we would give children papers and crayons, and we would say, draw something. And if you use no description, if you just kind of watch them, this is the kind of drawing that you get. This is the same child 1 minute later who was given another set of crayons and a paper. And this time the therapist used behavior descriptions. You picked up a green crayon, you're coloring in the bottom of the branch, and now you're coloring in another branch. You put the green crayon down, you found a brown crayon. Oh, you made a little stem on the bottom of the tree. You're coloring in the stem. Do you see how a child will become laser focused on the task and they'll stick with it longer? For those of you who have children that are having trouble with the homework, I urge you to do some behavior descriptions. You wrote your name on the top of the page. Oh, you put the number 1 next to the first spelling word, and you're going to watch their attention span grow like this child's, and they can stay with it for longer when somebody is talking about what they're doing and helping them stay focused on that task. So this is what behavior description looks like in a 5-minute playtime.
Setting up the train track.
Oh, you connected 2 pieces.
Yeah. I like train tracks. Do you like train tracks?
I like train tracks. What if you're connecting another one?
Ooh.
Now you're getting the trains ready.
So every time you hear that U word, you're connecting another one, you're getting the trains ready, you're giving this attention for neutral, positive behavior, and that behavior will increase, and the 5 minutes will be a happier time with better behavior, and then you'll have more and more positive behavior to pay attention to. The E of the pride skills is enjoy. Have a ton of fun. So you want to be animated. You want to have your voice go up and down, get excited about what's happening, use positive, exciting words, and show interest in your face in everything. And I know you're tired. You're really tired at the end of the day. And maybe you're going to do this 5 minutes after they've got on their pajamas and brushed their teeth, and you're really tired and you want to go to bed. But I'd say fake it. Fake enthusiasm. Fake it, because it has so many positive behaviors for your child. And if you fake it, you'll make it. So if you start doing the enthusiasm, your energy level is going to come up, and you're going to really start having a really good time. You want to have laughter. You want to be silly. You want to have physical affection, touches and hugs and ruffling the hair. And you want this 5 minutes to be a ton of fun for you and for your child. So this is this mom just getting silly and just enjoying herself.
You connected the whole track. Good job, buddy. Great job working on that. Oh, you started in.
So you can see the voices going up. We're getting excited, getting happy about that. So put in the chat, what are the 5 do skills? I'm going to give you a hint. They spell out the word pride. So go ahead and put in the chat any one of those do skills that you remember. Help out your buddies here. Put one of those in there. Maybe put the P in there, or the R, or the I, or the D, so we all can remember those skills. I need your help. Throw those into the chat and help us out here. Appreciate it. Uh-oh. What if your child misbehaves during the 5 minutes of the play therapy? What if they start whining? What if they're like, I don't like these toys? What if they're like bossy? Like, don't play with that, that's mine. Or what if they're like, I'm not going to share with you? And what if they're crashing cars and having dinosaurs bite each other's heads off? When you're dealing with misbehavior, I want you to think about 2 types of misbehavior. One is dangerous or destructive. So if they hit you, or they try to cut their own hair, or they're breaking crayons, or they're throwing toys to break them, for dangerous and destructive behavior, you should stop the playtime. You should say, you hit me, playtime is over. That is going to be a natural consequence, a logical consequence for them hurting somebody or hurting something during the playtime. If they're drawing on the walls, stop the playtime, take those crayons away, and they lose their playtime for the rest of the day. So if they're misbehaving during that in a dangerous way, you'll stop it. But what if it's annoying and obnoxious? That's the other category. They're just kind of yelling, or they're whining, or whatever. I am going to give you permission to use one of the most powerful behavior modification skills there is. You have my permission, and it's called ignoring. Ignore it. Ignoring, a lot of people are like, ignore? Dr. McNeil, come on. They just called me a stupid head. You want me to ignore it? Yes, I want you to ignore it. Because why? What is the reason? Why did they call you a stupid head? They called you that because they tried to get a reaction out of you. They wanted to get a rise out of you. And if you say, I'm not a stupid head, don't talk like that, they're going to do it again. No, you're a fart head. And they're going to do something else because they got attention for that behavior. And the whole reason for the behavior in the first place was to get attention. A huge amount of the misbehavior that you see in your home is for attention. Why does a child whine? I don't like these toys. These toys are no fun. Why do they whine? Is it something about that noise, the way that noise sounds? Do children sit in their bedroom by themselves and whine? If you have a camera on them, do they sit there and whine? They don't. But if you walk by the open door, they're like, why are these toys? Because they're doing it for attention. They're doing it to get you to look at them, to pay attention to them. And if the whining doesn't work for attention, they'll do something more positive to get your attention. So children love, love, love attention, and they're going to do behaviors to get that attention, and then they'll repeat the behaviors that get attention. And often those provocative, annoying and obnoxious behaviors get a rise out of you, they get attention, and it will get repeated. So what we want you to do is to withdraw your attention and actually drop your eye, turn your body away, and give them what I call the cold shoulder. So rather than arguing with them or telling them, no, don't stop, quit or not, just drop your eyes for an annoying and obnoxious behavior and start to distract. Oh, I found Spider-Man, he's going up the wall. A young child who sees Spider-Man going up a wall is going to stop whining or stop having the dinosaurs kill each other and go, what's Spider-Man? When you get 1 second of positive behavior, you will return the attention and praise the opposite. I love the way you're talking like a big guy. Or that was so nice of you to play gently with those dinosaurs. So you're going to ignore the behavior that is obnoxious, going to turn away, you're going to have no attention at all. You're going to wait for 1 second of better behavior, then you're going to return the attention and give a labeled praise for the behavior you like. And then that behavior will increase. So we want to avoid the arguing, we want to avoid the nagging, we want to avoid the negative talks that can actually provide negative attention and increase behaviors. So a lot of parents will say to me, ignoring equals letting my child get away with murder. But what I would say to you is ignoring equals restriction of a precious privilege. And that precious privilege is your attention. If they get your attention for negative behavior, they'll do it more often. If they do not get your attention for negative behavior, if they get silence, they will give you something better in order to get that attention returned. When you ignore, it will go up before it goes down. And that's why we redirect with Spider-Man, or we talk about something, oh, the train's coming. And then they're like, what train? And then they're going to stop the behavior for a second that's escalating. And then you can praise them for an opposite behavior. Like, oh, I love the way you're looking at Spider-Man with me. It's fun to play with Spider-Man together. So when you do the right thing, you get a lot of attention. And when you do negative attention seeking, I'm going to use ignore and redirect and wait for something better. And when I get some good behavior, I'm going to notice it and I'm going to praise it. So these are all the skills: praise, reflection, imitation, description, enjoyment, and then ignoring. Ignore the behavior you don't like and praise the opposite. And you'll find that a lot of that negative attention seeking behavior will go away if you drop your eyes and you turn and you underreact to it rather than trying to correct it or say something negative or that sort of thing. So when you put it together, this is what it looks like.
I'm gonna build. Let's
build. I'm gonna build with you.
So reflection and
You're
imitation.
building an orange, brown, and red tower.
Behavior description.
look. This could be a slide.
Could be a slide. That's a great
You could-
idea.
Reflection.
Up here and then go like this, and then you could ride off. And this could be the pool.
And that could be the pool.
Enthusiasm.
I love that idea. I'm gonna add to your pool.
And praise.
I'm going to make a blue
Imitation.
tower.
That kind of looks like crap.
Ignore.
1, 2,
Mom,
Ignore.
yeah, but that looks like crap.
Ignore.
steps on the back.
Ignore. Wait for something positive. Get excited about what you're doing.
This could be the high.
I love it when you say nice things. That could
Now praise the opposite behavior and pay attention to what you do like. These are some of the toys that are good for playtime. You want to have creative toys, construction toys, pretend play type toys. And you want to avoid really rough play stuff that's going to cause aggression, superheroes, or messy stuff, or things with predetermined rules where there's a winner and a loser and that sort of thing. Basically, you're looking for finding a time when you can do this at home for just 5 minutes a day. You have this really special connection every day so that the child can look forward to it, that every day, I'm told every single day, my parents listen to me for 5 minutes a day. And every day they tell me 10 things that they really like about me every single day, which makes me feel amazing about myself and amazing about my parents. At the end of playtime, you don't want to get into a big battle at the end. So there's 2 ways to end. One is to say, I'm going to pick up the toys now and you can help if you want, where you just basically pick up the toys yourself and you can help if you want. And if they happen to help and put a toy in the box, big label praise for that. Wow. Thank you so much for helping me. It's so fast when we do it together. Or you could say special playtime is over now. You can continue playing with the toys if you want, but I have to go do some other things. So if they're having fun with those blocks, you could leave them there playing, and then you can go do something else. But you don't want to get into a power struggle at the end, and you don't want to make them clean up the toys, but you certainly can pick them up yourself and they can help if they want. But we want to end on a positive note without any kind of big battle at the end. So here's what I'm going to say to you, because we're out of time. I'm going to say to you, if I asked you, if there was a bus coming, would you throw yourself in front of the bus so that your child wouldn't get hurt? Would you throw yourself in front of the bus and pull them aside and take the hit yourself? And I think most of you would say, yes, I would throw myself in front of a bus for my child. What I'm going to ask you to do is spend 5 minutes a day playing with your child in a therapeutic way so that they feel special, they feel connected, they feel heard, and they feel like every day, no matter what's happening, no matter how much stress we had, and no matter how many behaviors I had, every day I can count on the fact that I'm going to spend this amazing time with my mom or my dad, and I'm going to feel just amazing, really, really good about the time that we spend together. So I would say take a leap of faith. I'm not asking you to jump in front of the bus. I'm asking you to put out some toys, get on the floor and play with your child, because research has shown and clinical experience has shown that if you do this for 5 minutes a day, you and your child are going to have amazing benefits. So go out there and be a play therapist. Here's some resources at the end of this slideshow about how to find a provider if you want to receive this treatment called parent-child interaction therapy and get coached through a Bluetooth device from a therapist who's behind a one-way mirror or on a Zoom. You can get PCIT by going to the PCIT website. And here's some references. These are some of the books that we've written on PCIT and special playtime, some of the research that shows that it's effective. So just want to put that out there, and I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. McNeil. This was really wonderful and really tips. Thank you everyone for attending. We will be sending out the recording of tonight's talk. Please keep an eye out for emails. We have 2 more upcoming webinars, one on how to parent around trauma that children might face, and one on good enough parenting that'll be coming up this spring and summer. Thanks so much. Hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.